Welcome to Veterans of the North. My name is Butch Whitehead. I'm the Department Adjutant. I have the pleasure of being here with our DAV National Commander Coleman. Welcome, Coleman, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Butch. I can't thank you enough for not just the work that you do here every day, but welcoming me here today and making me part of the events of yesterday and this week. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What you're doing is incredible.
Well, Coleman, coming from the East Coast, so you're from Boston, I'm sure people are already catching on the accent now, how we have two great accents already, and how we're able to still communicate even with our accents, which is great. So everyone, those listeners out there, you should be able to catch the verbiage pretty well.
It's been wicked easy. Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit. You're coming up to 3/4 of your year already being done. I'm sure the time is just flying by for you. So what are the couple things you've enjoyed so far being the National Commander?
Oh, I honestly have enjoyed every day in it. It can be, you work when you're National Commander. It's, and if you do this job to meet the expectations of the membership, it can be a grind. But it's honestly, every day I meet a great new veteran. I hear a great new story. I see a great new program. I see people doing action, doing work in their communities. Honestly, I tell people, if I couldn't be inspired by how this Advocacy the chaplain, because something would be wrong with me. It's just amazing. I started my term. I went immediately out to California. Darrell Wilson out in Sacramento puts on a homeless veteran stand down. I spent a week there talking to homeless veterans, formerly homeless veterans, talking to VA, talking to the advocates and the people trying to solve that problem. It's hugely inspiring, hugely informational. And then since that time, I've really been trying to get out to departments and chapters to not do the ceremonial stuff, but to get into the ground, roll up your sleeves, and do the service work, which is what the hallmark of DAV, right? We're a service organization, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. And inspiring the chapters to get out there and into their communities and try to do those things that not only help the community, but then showcase who DAV is to the community.
Absolutely. Which leads me to, when you and I talked in February, and I shared with you one of the events that DAV is involved with here in Minnesota, and that's called Vets-A-Day in the Hill, and the advocacy work that the DAV is really involved here locally, but nationally. But I think everything, as you and I both know, we've had several conversations about legislative work. When it comes to advocacy work, it's grassroots, starts local. Everything is local. So when we have veterans issues, there's federal, there's state issues. I said, at the end of the day, we need to get our base activated at home. And yesterday, you got to see our Vets-A-Day in the Hill. And what a turnout, wasn't it?
Oh, my goodness. First of all, I'm extremely jealous that you can mobilize that many people to come in from all over the state. But to see the buses of people getting up, people had gotten up at 4, 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
To be able to make that bus to come in here because they needed their voice to be heard.
Right.
And when one person does that, it's powerful. But when hundreds do it, like I saw yesterday, in the march straight up to the Capitol, being led by a color guard of young people from the, varying Navy junior ROTCs, and varying programs coming up and just sort of reminiscent of that World War I bonus march, on the Hill that makes it so much more powerful. And, honestly, if I'm a legislator in there and I'm watching that, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm not on this issue, I really need to have some good reasons, because I'm going to have to think twice. There's so much advocacy, power, and passion here that we can't help but make a difference.
Well, you think about that when we had a small opportunity to talk to a couple of our senators and representatives, and Representative Olson verbatim clearly said, if we legislators can't pass this one sole issue for veterans, what are we here for? You think about the impact what that brought to him. When he saw 500-600 of our veterans come across all the state of Minnesota from every corner, he knows how important this bill is. But the bigger piece, I think, is what I get out of it and what I shared yesterday with the team is we need to make sure our veterans' voices are start being heard. We can't sit on the backside and just assume this work's going to get done. So yesterday is a good example of how veterans are starting to bring their voice forward. They want to make sure that they're not only talking, but they're showing up to the Capitol to where their elected officials work for them to make sure their voices are heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's look, we're in a different time. right? We can't rest on our laurels, and we especially can't rest on, the goodwill that was exhibited after World War II. 30% of the country was in military service in World War II. We just went through the longest war in American history, and, of which you're a veteran. Less than 1% of the country is involved in that. Well, that's lowering our veteran population as we move on. That lowering the veteran population means there's fewer elected officials who have any connections in the military. And we see it today generationally. For a long time, it was like, yes, I served. And then it's like, well, I didn't serve, my dad served. And then you get to a point where people were saying, well, I didn't serve, my grandpa served.
Right.
Now we're at a point where no one in my family, that I can remember at least, has ever been in military uniform. And not that they don't appreciate veterans, but they don't understand the issues that are really important to us. And it's really easy to get caught up on the patriotism and you guys want us to respect the country more and all that. And we do. But there are real needs and issues that you incur as a result of your military service, and they vary depending on the severity of what you've experienced. Those have a direct impact, not only on people's health, on people's lives, on people's personal economies, on our states, on our public welfare budgets, on all of these things. And these issues that you bringing up yesterday, we bring up nationally at DAV, and what you're bringing locally here to the state capitol, is really highlighting those stories and those issues and making sure they know that behind every single one of those votes, there are people and people's lives and the balance. They need to keep that in mind before they make a decision.
And you brought up a great point there, Commander, and that the piece of our voice being heard. But I think about, starting locally, grassroots here in Minnesota, I think we figured out this rally that we do here is, I think, our 10th year, 11th year that we've been doing this whole march up to the Capitol. But I think it's also resonated at the DAV side, because when we come out to midwinter, we hear the National Commander testify before the Joint Veterans Affairs Committees. And we see how important it is. We set up meetings with all of our representatives and senators. Minnesota, we're averaging 25 to 30 of our members traveling out to D.C. every year to hear the federal stuff as well, because as you just shared, what we're doing here, we also got to take it to the next level too, is also the federal issues, because there's a big difference between state legislation and federal legislation. I think what you highlighted there is, I think one of the challenges that our younger generation has right now is, I think they want to serve, but they're also seeing that they may not be taken care of when they take the uniform off because of all the fighting that's going on right now. And, you and I've had conversations like, veterans are not as popular as they used to be, and we are having to fight so much harder now today to get our issues brought forward.
Yeah, we're beginning to be looked at like we're another obligation on behalf of the state government, one that has to be managed appropriately within the state budget. But it's really not. The contract that existed for years wasn't about us being an obligation. It was literally about it was almost like a real contract. It was sufficient consideration on both sides. We did our part. Right. We went, we served, we fought, we bled, we came back, with wounds, some seen, some unseen.
Right.
And incurred that as a debt to the nation. The nation's responsibility was to say, okay, you've done your part, now we do ours. And I'll tell you what, this really came home for me yesterday. Your beautiful state capitol and your rotunda. It reminds me a lot of the Massachusetts state capitol and the rotunda, in that we have the battle flags of the Civil War units, the regimental units that are displayed there. And we do the same thing in Massachusetts. We have all of ours. But there's a photo, a famous, not photo, painting, rather, huge mural of our Civil War units marching in with their battle flags, their regiments, up the State House stairs to present them to Governor Andrews at the time, the governor of Massachusetts, to give them back. And if you look at the history of what that was supposed to represent, we have protected democracy under this flag. And now we're handing the flag to you so that you can practice what we have preserved for you under the flag. And there was a contract that existed there. We've done our part, now you do your part. And I think we need to remind our elected officials, we've done our part. Right? So we're not an obligation that just kind of popped up out of nowhere. This is a contract that's existed since the beginning of the day. and you need to fulfill your obligations to that, regardless of how difficult that may be.
And I want to transition to the next topic, and I think that's a great transition. That is taking care of us as we come home. And I think the DAV, one of our biggest new programs, I think it's going to take off really quickly here, I think, is our Caregivers program. And right now, the VA, well, we have some, that's a whole other conversation you and I can have about the VA and some of the things that we're seeing. But let's talk about the caregiver piece and how the DAV is really foreseeing a big issue coming forward that we need to get out in front of, and that's the caregivers.
Yeah, I'm so proud of DAV and all the work we're doing at our Caregiver program. It's an amazing free program. DAVcaregiver.org is how you reach that. As you know, these are all free services, like everything we do at DAV, right? I mean, I tell everyone all the time, you get a bill from DAV, don't pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not real.
Yep.
And, and people really are impressed by that. This is all free. Of course, it's free. Mm-hmm. We're a nonprofit organization. We're here to serve you. Why would we charge you money for it?
Right.
So the caregiver piece of this, when I think about the lives and I had an opportunity to spend time with a lot of caregivers, both at our National Disabled Veterans Golf Clinic, and as well as just recently at the National Disabled Veterans with a Sports Clinic. We have a portion of those weeks where we're taking the caregivers out for lunch and for fun activities while their veteran is engaged in whatever activity they're right. But they have a respite, and they have the ability to, one, communicate and build community with each other, but two, then just have fun, enjoy themselves. Right. And when you see them and the stress that comes out of there, when they're just able to have lunch with a couple of other people and talk about just regular things, it's great that we're doing it for them. But what it really hits to me is, what is their everyday life like when just a simple lunch out with just people other than the person you're caring for, and is so like relaxing to you. Like, these people care for us every day. They have sacrificed their lives so that we may live.
Right.
And there's no other way to say it. I mean, we've had National Dave Riley, on, so many of our members and even our national leaders have had to, would not have been our national leaders were it not for these people behind them, making sure they're taken care of, that they're doing well, their lives are progressing, and that they're overcoming these wounds and injuries. Okay, how can we not support?
Right.
And how can we not do everything we can to help?
The big thing I think, as I look at, the demographics, and we receive a lot of reports, obviously, from the VA, from the government itself, on just the demographics of veterans themselves. And the data is right there in front of us, that our veterans are living longer, they're staying in their home longer, and it's putting a lot more stress on the caregiver because they want to be with their loved ones.
Yeah.
We need to be able to start figuring out, and I think the DAV is on the right path and should do some amazing things, and that is, there is help for you, caregiver. This doesn't always have to fall on just your shoulders.
Sure.
We are leading the way again in a program that is going to help set our veterans up for relaxation. Because of that caregiver, the stress that they go through taking care of us veterans on every day is also affecting their health. Mm-hmm. And the piece that the DAV is doing, and God bless, Ron Mentor, the director of the Caregiver Program. I mean, that guy is taking on a battle with this program, and he's doing some amazing work. So like you said earlier, Commander, DAVcaregivers.org, DAV Caregiver, not plural, caregiver.org. Ron has done some amazing work with that.
Ron is, when you think about it, he is an individual who had no background in caregiver support, was given a mission, and loves the mission, adopted it true to his heart, and now he's out there. And when I tell you, I talked to the VA Caregiver Program, I can't tell you how many VA employees said, he is the godsend. He is the best thing that we could have thought. We're finally getting advocacy. We're getting the additional resources we need to be able to support people. You're making our caregivers be able to build community with each other and be able to talk to one another and be able to share stories and ideas and advice. And just download. Sometimes you just got to call someone and be like, look, I'm going to scream at you for an hour. I'm not screaming at you. I'm screaming at the world. Right. And you just happen to be on the phone.
Exactly.
And they're and they're like, yeah, go ahead. Because I understand, because next week I'm going to scream at you because I'm going to have a hard week.
Right.
And so, when you think about the work that he's doing and how he's adopted that mission, and you think about what he's expanding into now, and I'll tell you, this is not static. Not text, rather. He's constantly thinking about different ways to improve the program. He's thinking about all right, I've been out there now and I'd heard another need. All right, how do we incorporate that need into the program? Working to constantly keep the site and the information and the offerings updated and relevant is a skill. And you can't do that if you're just managing a program. You have to live that program and own that program. And he has done that 100%.
Absolutely. Commander, this is a great way to maybe we're going to take a little pause here. We'll come back and we're going to talk about the community impact that the DAV is doing here. Obviously, April is almost on. It's amazing how fast April's going.
Not too late.
Still
1 hour.
Exactly.
1 hour.
But I will take a little pause here and we'll be right back. This is Veterans of the North. Thank you for joining us. All right, welcome back to Veterans of the North. Again, my name is Butch Whitehead, and I'm sitting here with our current National Commander Coleman. We just kind of finished wrapping up our previous segment talking about advocacy work, and we went into a Caregivers program. But, Commander, when you first kind of highlighted about your year, one of the things you talked about was the community impact and how you went out to California. When you talked about coming here to Minnesota and you're going to be here a few extra days, I took that as, okay, Commander likes to get involved. He likes getting his hands dirty. So starting tomorrow through Tuesday, we have some veterans projects we're doing here as well in Minnesota. And DAV started this Community Impact Day. I think this is the third year of it now. They're usually the first Saturday, but it's the whole month of April, really, what Community Impact is. Right? Yeah. Giving back to our veterans. Let's talk about what that means to you and, as you've been traveling around the country, visiting with chapters and members and stuff like that.
It's huge. I love Community Impact Day / month. And as you know, all we're asking is donate 1 hour, 1 hour time to serve with veterans during the entire month. Now, we love it if you want to put together a huge project, 25 people, go down, clean a veteran's yard, redo a playground that's dedicated in honor of someone who was killed in action or a veteran, do something in the community. That's great, but it doesn't have to be that grand, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, what could 1 hour look like? Right. 1 hour could be like, my neighbor across the street served in Vietnam. He never talks about it. I've never mentioned it to him. I might just knock on the door, bring a cup of coffee, and say, hey, thank you for your service. If you want to talk about anything, I'd love to hear your story.
Absolutely.
For someone like that to be able to, that's life change, right, for that individual. And we're doing this all around the country in different ways. But I think what Community Impact Day was really hammering home, not just for the general public, but for us internally in DAV, right? My motto when I came in as commander that's on my coin is non nobis solum, which is a quote from Cicero that what translates to, we're not born for ourselves alone. Our country and our friends share us. Mm-hmm. And, and that's so true, particularly in the veteran community, right?
It is.
You've already exhibited that. But it continues beyond our contract. Just because you're out wearing the uniform doesn't mean we don't have the obligation.
Right.
And so what I think our chapters are beginning to really embrace, which I love, is, yes, we do a lot of great work. We drive veterans to appointments, and we're in our VA hospitals, we're in our state veterans homes, and, we're going to visit, veterans at different community places. But those are all sort of us interacting with veterans, not in sight of everyone else in the community. And so while we're doing good work, people don't know what that work really looks like. So Community Impact Day brings us out into the community. It shares our stories about what we're doing, not just with other veterans and not just helping that veteran, but communicates who DAV is to the wider audience so that they can support us. If there are veterans out there that maybe they have an antiquated idea about what a vet service organization looks like and, decide, well, it's not really for me. But then they see us in action and they begin to rethink in their head, in the decision,
Yep.
I mean, these people are doing good work, and they're out there and they're doing the kind of stuff I want to do. I want to roll up my sleeves. I want to make a difference in the world. And, Community Impact Day starts literally with the heart of our volunteers. And I think it's important to remember all DAV is volunteers. And, these are people that just give up our time to do more for the community because it's important. John Klein does a great job, Director of Voluntary Services, does a great job marketing this, making it easy to do. His websites, his ways to track your hours. And, it's just one of those parts of the year that not only at DAV, but I think the general public, that we can engage them and say, learn more about this community, learn more about the people that, you support. We're more than just guys who march or men and women who march in a parade day. We're more than just the people standing around a memorial and a Veterans Day and Memorial Day ceremony. We're your neighbors. We're your friends. We're your elderly relatives. We're out there and we have needs.
Right.
And those needs, by and large, have a huge nexus to what we will give up for the country so that all of us could live in the country we have today.
Mm-hmm.
When people start thinking about it from that perspective, there's a great human capacity to say, I've got to do something. I've got to serve. And if we can inspire that through more community impact months and days, and let's not forget, we say give 1 hour a day or community impact day. For most of our volunteers, when you see them, everyone here, every day is community impact day.
Exactly. You think about what community impact also is. It's also bringing our communities back together. You think about how divided we are as a country. We see it on the news every single day. And when you start doing these community impact days where you bring a group of people, volunteer their time to show up at a veteran's house to do whatever, small project, big project, or bring food to somebody. The neighbors in that community are seeing that. And it really hopefully bringing more of a positive message back to what our world's about. Being here for everybody else, being here and doing, as you said with your model, or something's bigger than yourself, right? We're in this world, not just for me, but also to help other people as well. And here in Minnesota, our chapters have done an amazing job already. Here this month, we've had a chapter that took out an old wheelchair ramp to a house and put a brand new one in. We had some people go volunteer to serve some food, do some baking and give some food. This week, as you know already, tomorrow we're putting a ramp in. We're helping another veteran with a roof project. These are some little bigger projects, of course, that we're doing here with you while you're here. But every single day, as you just said, Commander, we have volunteers that are getting back, helping a fellow veteran and their family every single day. And no charge.
No charge and without fanfare. Right. And, I say this all the time. We will clock our hours volunteer. We'll clock how many claims we took. We'll clock how many veterans we transported to the hospital. We'll clock how many veterans we served at that hospital. We have metrics for a whole bunch of things. You know what we don't have metrics for? How many tears of anguish do we turn into tears of joy?
Yeah.
From somebody who's not going to lose their home.
Right.
How many nights of peaceful sleep did we provide to a family because that young person in their family who was struggling with the reintegration and who they thought was going to become part of a statistic,
right,
is now turning their life around and moving forward in a positive direction and being the person who they were meant to be, right? There's so many things that are volunteer. They just do this quietly every day, house by house, kitchen table by kitchen table, coffee shop by coffee shop, ride by ride, every single day. Doing it because they just have to do it. Not always taking time to appreciate how much of a difference you've made in that person's life. And I think we need to think about that all the time because it's reinvigorating, right?
And I'm sure you've heard it just like I have. We both talk to these volunteers, it's like, hey, make sure you record your hours. Like, I just do it because I want to do it. They're not doing it to get recognized. They're not doing it for, hey, pat myself on my back and stuff like that for all these great things. They're doing it because they have a big heart and they want to give back. And that's what volunteering is. Volunteer is literally giving your time to help something else other than yourself.
It's recognizing that you're something, you have to be dedicated to a purpose greater than just yourself, right? And otherwise, what's the point of life?
Right.
Why even be in a community?
Absolutely.
It's so, for those folks, we do get a lot of them. Now, I do tell them, record your hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
because not to be honest, but it helps us to track as a national organization how well we're doing. It helps us to tell our story and get more people to come in and help us. But I think, that spirit of service, and, everybody I met in DAV and auxiliary as well. I'm a member of the auxiliary. I'm a member of the auxiliary. And I think sometimes we talk about your DAV. I see the work being done by auxiliary members. I mean, I was on a spinal cord unit in Boston right before Christmas with two amazing auxiliary members, Jenna and Stan Pratt, and unfortunately Stan passed this week. But it was an amazing experience to be up there. They're there for Christmas time and the holidays in general with spinal cord patients who couldn't leave the hospital to go home because of their medical condition. They couldn't travel. And a lot of these people couldn't have their families. They couldn't afford to come see them.
Right.
So they were spending Christmas, the entire Christmas season, in a hospital.
In a hospital.
In a hospital. And so, DAV and our auxiliary came out and they were supporting them every day with lunches. They were giving gifts. There was, celebrations every night. What can we do? Walking around, making sure that they were on Christmas Day, making sure that they're, supporting them and supporting the VA employees that were working with them. That's amazing. I mean, the look on the people's faces that were being shared was a mixture of both immense gratitude and curiosity about who are you people, and I don't know you, and why are you even taking all this time to help me?
Exactly.
And and so I think and I see that when I've been out in Arizona cleaning yards of veterans, in West Virginia serving food at Fisher House. We've served lunch on Cape Cod to 60 veterans in the food pantry. All of the work that's going on, and it's not just in VA hospitals. It's not just in our vans. It's right there in the
Community, really. And I guess that's great transition. I mean, you and we've never done this before, but it's really going really smoothly for the fact of how we transition to the next topic. And you just hit a key one that I want to kind of wrap up on, and that is food insecurity. I know it's very big for you in actually making sure that no veteran goes to bed hungry, right? It's just a sad thing going on. Here in Minnesota, we started a food pantry. Say here in Minneapolis, VA, May will be a 2 years of doing that, and we're averaging 300 veterans a month showing up to get boxes of food. And still.
I mean, it's great that you're doing it, but it's a terrible staff.
It's sad. And as we look at the data and the number of veterans that are struggling with food insecurity, they can't put food on the table because they're paying their bills and stuff like that. DAV Minnesota, we're looking at starting a new program up and actually making that one of our programs that we do, and that is offer a food insecurity program. We have other nonprofits that we're looking at working with, Minnesota Veterans Pantry, another organization that really wants to get behind this. But I think the bigger piece about what we just kind of talked about with the community impact and things like that, when we're out there, we're able to really kind of get to know some of these veterans and find out what's going on in their life. And food insecurity is one of those areas I'm seeing.
It's a huge, and I'm really glad we morphed into this, because that's the other thing I think about our community impact day and our service in the communities in general is we're putting eyes on those veterans, and we're not just recognizing this veteran needs a ramp, but they need a whole lot more.
Exactly.
And, we're coming back and we're going to do that as well. And I think with food insecurity, really where I really became attuned to this is I serve on a board. I live in Cape Cod, Mass now. And there's a local organization that serves veterans at Cape Cod. They run a food pantry. And I started volunteering and working with them. And I was amazed when I first thought about the food pantry. I thought that's for very, very low income. That's going to be homeless veterans. That's going to be people that just have no money in the bank whatsoever that are showing up here. No, it was seniors. Seniors who I know retired, have pensions, have disability income. But here's the deal, they can't afford to live, right? Because that money doesn't meet today's current cost.
Exactly.
And so, so people say, well, they have a house. What are you going to do? Sell your house?
Right.
Well, where am I going to go? My family's here. My grandkids are here. My community's here. You want me to move 5 hours away to a place I can afford, where I don't know anybody and I'm in the woods?
Right.
I mean, so they have to stay. So they have to make those tough choices, right? You got to pay your mortgage. You have to take your house, right? You got to pay your insurance. for your house and your car and you know, and you got to pay those medical bills. What's flexible? What's flexible? Food. Yeah, food. I don't have to eat every day. Yeah, if I do have to eat every day, it doesn't have to be nutritious.
You know, one thing we realize here in Minnesota is what we want to do is go to where they are at. You know, just like in Mass, here in Minnesota, we're a large state. And as we just talked about, some of the struggles veterans have is paying their bills. Well, I would really like to go down to the Minneapolis VA, you know, to get that food. I don't have no gas money. I just paid my rent. I paid this. I don't have the gas money to get down there. So our vision as we're building this out is setting up what we call spoke wheels or little hubs. So that every once a month we'll go up there and we kind of let the veterans know we're coming to them. Because I think that's a big piece of that as well. So if they know that we know they're there, that we come to them, it's going to be a huge help as well to let them feel comfortable that we are actually coming to them.
I think that's amazing. I mean, we have to bring the services to the people, really. You know, because we have to be empathetic and we have to put ourselves in that person's perspective. We'll just come down to VA and get the food. Well, if I can't afford to come down to VA to get the food, then, you know, thanks for the offer, but this will work. Yeah. You look at the numbers. I mean, you know, who is food insecurity affecting the most among the veteran population? 65 to 74 years old. Yep. It's a Vietnam vets. Yeah. It's Vietnam vets. People who served this country in Vietnam came back to let's be honest, a moral failing on behalf of this nation. Welcome back properly.
Exactly.
And because of a lot of those reasons, a lot of these people have struggled over their lives. No, they're not sitting in their homes, not eating.
Good.
40%, or a third of our disabled veterans in this country, food insecure. 1 in 5 women, many with children, food insecure veterans. This is a real issue. And I'll tell you, when I was at the homeless stand down, we've done tremendous work on homelessness. I mean, our SSVF and HUD Bash and the various state programs and Secretary's Challenge, we've housed a lot of veterans. But all these veterans were still coming to stand down. And I said, why? They said, because we can't afford to live. I have a house, but I don't have enough income after my bills to get toiletries, to get medical care, to get groceries, to get food. So I come to stand down so that I can continue to get those things that would help me to be able to sustain myself. And, you know, and if you want to look at this from just a fiscal standpoint, these programs, we're supporting people in their homes, whether it's caregiving, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's homelessness. We take them and put them in a good situation that we can manage. We take them out of a far more expensive situation.
Absolutely.
When we are, bouncing them around from program to program over the years, watching them crater and fall into things that are going to be far more expensive to the taxpayers at the end of the day, right? It just doesn't make sense from either direction.
Either way.
So if you want to take a moral point on this, yes, we should be doing it. If you're fiscally concerned and that's your primary concern, we should still be doing it. Yep. And so I think, that your efforts on that are and your forward thinking on that, I am so interested in that. I can give you a lot of credit for doing it. And I hope it's a model that we can export to other states because it's a real big issue and people need to keep an eye on it.
In Commander, we just went through so many of our great programs. One thing I want to highlight here, we haven't really talked much about it with the DAV, but you highlighted earlier, that is all the services and programs that we offer are free to veterans. So veterans that are out there listening to us, caregivers, if you want to learn more, go to DAV.org and or DAVMN.org to learn more. Reach out. And Commander, we wrap up this, what are some of your closing comments that you have about, just this overall excitement about the DAV here and what we're doing?
It's amazing. I mean, it was less than 24 hours when I was in Minnesota before I began to realize the full scope and breadth of everything that you're doing here at the state. It's not just the traditional DAV work. What I'm really excited about is the fact that you are all innovative and you're looking at the future and you're saying we can't rest on our laurels and we can't even rest on our existing models that we have. We have to be constantly thinking about what are the new needs, what are the new opportunities, how can we move forward? And, when you talk to all of the members, all the leadership that are here, that's constantly what they're thinking about. That I want that to be infectious to the rest of all of our departments because it's so important to be thinking that way, particularly at a time when our numbers are driving down, when our legislative influence and our advocacy influence is waning, and we have to fight even harder to get the benefits that we need. When all of these things are occurring, we as an organization need to be thinking about how do we make ourselves in a way that we're going to continue to be relevant. And the way we're going to continue to be relevant is doing exactly what you're doing. It's advocacy, it's community work, it's innovation, and it's volunteerism.
And I think what, to add to that, Commander, as I wrap up my closing thing is, for veterans that are out there that are just unsure where they belong, just understand DAV is a place. DAV is your family. We're out there. We stand to helping our brothers and sisters. So again, for those aren't members or those are members really trying to find the next niche or how they can get involved, please contact the DAV. We're here for you on anything they need, but also if you have the ability to give back to help your brothers and sisters, hey, come knock on our door. We're here to help you, to help other veterans. So, Commander, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
I really think you're going to
Commander.
Yes.
Two-time Commander. I don't know. You outrang me. You served twice.
That's okay. Well, you're the man today. So, thank you, Commander. Again, my name is Butch Whitehead with Veterans of the North. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation and stay tuned for the next episode.